Shalom, Baruch Haba, Coram Lee Anthony. Hello and welcome. They call me Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sarid for our weekly Torah teaching on the coming of Adonai Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach according to the word of Yahuwah. This time I'd like to give all praise, honor, and esteem to Yahuwah Elohim for the great wisdom and insight he has given us in his word to share with you concerning the coming of his Ben Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach. We are excited for him, and this message is deeply rooted in the prayer that he taught us to pray concerning the will of Yahuwah being done here on this earth as it is in the Shemayim. We will see this in the written account. This is the reason why he taught us to pray this way. All of the prayer is tied in these times that we are talking about here now in the story. To the Kodashim out there, Toda Rabbah, many thanks for your comments and for your supports. If you are joining us here for the first time, Baruch Haba, welcome. There are orientation videos, Orientation 1 and Orientation 2, that will help you in your understanding of how we look at Scripture here. And the way we look at Scripture here is according to the covenant, and that is what is lining up to testify for these times. Okay, so these are important times that we are living in. And now that we are assembled, let's go to the time where Yahuwshuwa begins to give the orders to do those things that are necessary for the battle ahead. Temukanim, you're ready? As Bonnet Key. Let's go. Yahuwshuwa chapter 1, we'll be looking at verses 12 and 13 this week, followed by the witness over in 1st Yochanan. We'll be looking at chapter 3, verses 23 and 24. And to the Re'obani, the Gadi, and this is his mitzvah, that we should believe on the name of his Ben Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach. We pick up from last week. Yahuwshuwa is still executing his commission to carry out the will of Yahuwah, and he starts with Reuben and Gad. We'll also be looking at the half-tribe of Manasseh. All received their inheritance on the eastern side of the Jordan River. This begins specific instructions for them to help the other tribes, because the other tribes helped them. The other tribes were going in to establish their inheritance on the western side of the Jordan. Now, the magnitude of what is going on here is easily overlooked because of the story. It is a hidden treasure. As I have mentioned several times before, many have failed to recognize the fullness of what is going on here before they even cross the Jordan. In the big picture of what is going on in the story, I'm going to use an analogy here to help you understand the vision as we survey the lines and how the redemptive plan is seen and what is going on here in the story before they even crossed. So listen up. The eastern side of the Jordan represents the whole earth. This is the big picture. The western side represents the Shemayim, where Yahuwah dwells. Moshe stood on the eastern side and saw the fullness of demonic play in all the land on the western side. What he saw was a vertical picture of the spiritual affairs of men. The big picture. Things that were going to be played out in the high places where he stood on Mount Nebo as it related to the word of Yahuwah in the land. We looked at those verses. The eyes of Yahuwah are always on the land of promise. They physically were going in to destroy the demonic beliefs of the people on the western side of the Jordan, destroying the people and all. This will establish a picture of righteousness done in the high places where Yahuwah dwells. The presence of Yahuwah is actually recorded to have come down in the land during the days of Shalom at a later time in history. It's a picture of the greatness of the kingdom being established in. But demonic activity will be destroyed in the high places where they still exist to thwart the salvation of the soul. This is the spiritual battle we must all face, whether you believe it or not. Now, the waters of the Yarden, for this analogy, divide the dwelling places through which the soul must pass through to get from one side of life to the other side of life. The will of Yahuwah is to be done on earth as it is in the Shemayim, that is to say, the truth regarding salvation. This analogy is just a horizontal picture of the setup of the redemptive plan playing out on the earth. This same picture is also played out vertically as well. Vertically because, as I mentioned, the soul must also pass from death on earth to life everlasting on the other side. The spiritual battle for the soul also wages war, and this is the reason for the war in the first place. The battle is against worldly views of everlasting life and how to obtain it. This war that Yahuwshuwa is leading will determine who is right. Yahuwah is demonstrating through Yisrael who is right and who is wrong, because they are going up against an ancient understanding that dated back to the flood of the days of Noah, going into the land of Canaan. This is a time of reckoning, and what is done here is just the beginning of a continuing process that spans history and speaks to every soul throughout the generations. Because no other religious doctrine, sensationalized spiritual ideology, or otherwise fabricated belief system cooked up by man in the flesh will stand against the plan for redemption that Yahuwah Elohim is doing through Yisrael, period. Especially the writings of Moshe under the leadership of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. So don't fool yourselves. This is the power of the word of Yahuwah in the story. The everlasting inheritance will be divided up among the tribes of Yisrael for a witness to all the nations near and far. A witness that stands to this day. And whoever follows the plan will be saved. This story is just the horizontal part playing out here on the earth. This is the physical playing field, if you will, for the flesh, a foreshadow of what is continually done in the vertical sense until all is fulfilled. And from that time, there are instructions to be followed. The same ones given to Moshe on earth or the eastern side of the Yarden are the same ones needed before your soul crosses the waters of the Yarden in the sky to the life everlasting, vertically, where the judgment of the soul takes place. And when you get there, you better know something about this commandment. This is the beginning of the process of the redemptive plan. Yochanan says this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his Ben Yahushua HaMashiach. He didn't stutter, and he only wrote one name. We will now look at the commandment as it relates to Reuben first. Reuben means behold a Ben. And we behold a Ben down in Yochanan, as it reads the name of his Ben, Yahushua HaMashiach. Behold that. His for this survey is Yahuwah. That is who Yochanan is writing about as the Aleph Tah officer, the one appointed to write this letter. Yahushua is taking command now and giving special instructions to be written from Yahuwah. So we behold a ben in the line down below for the survey. Now for the commandment, as it relates to the Gadi, Gad, H1425, is an invader, a troop of fortune, chosen for this time. The troops are seen as we down in Yochanan. Yochanan writes, and this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his Ben Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach. Everyone on the eastern side of the river, earth if you will, to include everyone in history, including us, needs to believe in his Ben Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach. This is the message before you cross those waters into the land everlasting. And this too is a mitzvah, and one that brings good fortune. Okay, the tribe of Gad is poured out here as a drink offering. And half the tribe of Manasseh, Yahuwshuwa spoke, saying, remember the word which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded you. And love one another as he gave us commandment. Now he who keeps his commandment abides in him, and he in him. This is important as we survey this line and half. Katseh is half. The verb katsah, H2673, means to divide in two, to cut short or live half of one's life. This half is the half that you live here on earth. Manasseh also has another half on the other side of the river. The other half of his life represents the soul, the other half of life that is lived in the land everlasting, the land of promise. This is half of a bigger picture. And the reason Manasseh is divided up is to demonstrate what happens to the body and soul during the redemptive plan that is playing out here in the story. And Yahuwshuwa is speaking to Manasseh right now. Remember the word which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded you. Manasseh, whose name means causing to forget. H4519, Manasseh means causing to forget. The verb means to allow to be forgotten. The understanding here is something on earth will cause you to forget the things that are done here and needed for the saving of the soul. And it is up to you not to allow it to be forgotten. You have a choice to make, and no one can take it from you. But they can cause you to forget it. So Yahuwshuwa says to him, remember. Notice he didn't say, don't forget. That's because remember is a more positive influence. He planted something in the mind of the seed for the generations. This is what Manasseh represents. Remember. This is crucial. Remember the Aleph Tah word which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded you. Remember. The mark of the accusative is here on the word, word. It is necessary for Chayim Olam. Remember it. This word is the most important part of the instructions and is expounded upon by Yochanan. And remember the Aleph Tah word which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded you, and love one another as he gave us commandment. That's right. Remember the commandments. They teach us how to love Yahuwah and each other. That is to say, all who believe in the redemptive plan of Yahuwah. This is love for that setup So understand this, because we are not commanded to love outside of his plan regarding everlasting life. We are to love one another, everyone that is keeping it alive, supporting it, and not every wind of doctrine. This is the message and should be cherished and uplifted by all as sound doctrine to live by on both sides. You will need a true testimony. Remember, you will only get one shot at this. So remember the Aleph Tah word. Now let's look at some people who will come along and cause you to forget this. To do this, we look to the word for tribe. H7626 Shebet is a rod, branch, or offshoot, a scepter. This is a mark of authority that the footnote seeks to do away with. And when you look at it, in text omits us. It's clear foul play is at hand, specifically the hand that wrote this footnote in the scriptures. The tribes are the ones who first received these words of great favor. It says so right in the sentence, as he gave us commandment. Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, specifically the half-tribe of Manasseh. The words were given to us. This is the mark of authority for this tribe. They represent all the generations coming back to the inheritance of the ancestors, called Yisrael, of which Reuben and Gad were a part of. The tribe of Manasseh represent the generations coming back because they are the only ones that have an inheritance on both sides of the Jordan. Because the other half of this tribe, as I mentioned, is on the western side of the Jordan. So this is a mark of authority on another level. As I have explained, they have an inheritance on both sides of the river. So this is major. It was given to us then, and it is given to us here now for the ado. Now the enemy, they want to omit us. They want to omit us, those who are remembering to line this stuff up for an accurate witness, because they do not have the love Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, commanded. That's because these type of Christians do not keep any of his commandments, not one of them. And I challenge anyone out there to write and let me know which ones you think they are keeping, so I can go into great detail with you about where you went wrong. Because they do not abide in him, and he does not abide in them. This is still another divide going on here. The M text is cut off because of witness tampering. They have no love for the Ibrit understanding. I don't know who they think Joshua is. That's not going to fly. That's why we love one another. To those of you who have love for the restored names in the Ibrit, especially Yahuwshuwa, HaMashiach, hold fast to what you have been given, and remember Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah. Remember, this is Yahuwshuwa speaking in the line above. This is commanded to you, whoever that might be. Now, he who keeps his commandments abides in him, and he in him. So remember. Saying Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you rest and giving you this land. And by this we know that he abides in us. By the Ruach he has given us. So here it is, a spiritual backhand to smack down those who seek to omit us. The mitzvah was to us and for us. He abides in us. He gave us the Ruach. Either a symbol like the commandment or be destroyed. This is the goal of all of Scripture. This is the rest with which the weary is caused to rest. This is the land everlasting. The mark of the accusative is on this and the land. This is the goal. This is not just the physical land. This is spiritual. Because even Yochanan draws more light to it, saying, by this we know that he abides in us. By the Ruach. This is a life-giving spirit or speaking, whom he has given us. So flesh and blood will not inherit this land everlasting that Yochanan is referring to, as it lines up with the story. This is noting the difference between the two places. So he sees the vision as well. Notice Yahuwshuwa says, Yahuwah is giving us rest and the land, both the physical and the spiritual. Yochanan goes into detail with the spiritual because Yahuwshuwa covers the physical in the victories written in the book that bears his name. Yahuwshuwa says Yahuwah Elohim is giving you rest. Okay, Yochanan says, and by this we know that he abides in us. Then Yahuwshuwa says, and is giving you this land, this Aleph Tau land. The mark of the accusative is here. So the Ruach down in Yochanan, so is the Ruach. It's down in Yochanan, and as it reads, by the Ruach he has given us. Okay, this is something that Yahuwah sent during the time of Shavuot. So we should remember that day to recognize it. This is the name of the life-giving speaking that dwells in that place. We all get a piece of it. It comes with the promise. The word used here speaks of the breath. In the Greek, G4151 is the vital principle by which the body is animated. The rational speaking. The power by which the human being feels, thinks, and decides. So he gave the ruling decision to us, and the victory was decisive. Everything got established. As I have mentioned, this is the redemptive plan playing out in the written account. I'm sure it has never been revealed like this. And now you know. Yahuwshuwa chapter 1 verse 14 will line up with 1st Yochanan. We'll be looking at chapter 4 verse 1. Your wives and your little ones and your livestock shall remain in the land which Moshe gave you on this side of the Jordan. Beloved. In other words, they will be well taken care of. Your wives, your little ones, and your livestock. The wives and little ones are the fundamental building blocks of every society. And those being raised up to carry on this epic battle will be well taken care of. The roots of what Yahuwah is doing with his seed will remain in the earth, symbolic of the land on the eastern side of the Jordan, the earth. This account is still bearing witness to the redemptive plan that Yahuwah is putting into motion through his people. They are going to remain in the land which Moshe gave them on this side of the Jordan. They are going to remain with the livestock. McNay H4735 is cattle. It's cattle. This is sustenance to keep them going on this side of the Jordan. Everything needed for worship. The word is from Kana, H7069. It means to get, to acquire, create, buy, and possess livestock. Okay? This word is used of Yahuwah originating, creating, and redeeming his people. So what is remaining in the land which Moshe gave them on this side of the Jordan is seen as beloved over in Yochanan, favored and highly esteemed, well taken care of, until the fullness of the redemptive plan is brought to pass and this covers a long period of time. Until that happens, even for our time, the truth and those who are raising up a seed as a witness to it are going to be in the land on this side of the Jordan. As I mentioned, a symbol of life here in the earth. The truth will be in the land that Moshe gave you. Moshe is the key, and of course the Torah is still here with us to this day. It's still in the earth, and our wives and our little ones are still being raised up even now. They are beloved. Many are following the words of Moshe and being nourished from that livestock. In other words, the women and the children have everything needed to bring them everlasting life. But you shall pass before your brethren armed, arrayed for battle and stout. Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of Yahuwah. Okay, test them. Dokimazo means to examine, prove, and scrutinize. See whether a thing is genuine or not before being accepted. The battle they faced during the days of the great General Yahuwshuwa HaMashiach is the same battle that is raging during the time of Yochanan on a religious level. So what he says is meant to arm them. And we should take up this armor as well, because the battle has not changed. It is still spiritual. Whoever does not believe will be put under the ban or destroyed. Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits. Spiritual ignorance is discerned in the speaking. The enemy testifies wrong because they do not love Yahuwah. If they did, they would say it and worship it by following his instructions for worship. Only it can lead you to salvation. The mark of the accusative is on you. Okay, to test whether they are of Yahuwah. This is everlasting here. So Yahuwah goes here in this line instead of Elohim, which some scriptures have put in there. The Greek has the reference to Theos. We looked at this before. And they make this type of change throughout this witness of Yochanan, which is a very important witness. All your mighty men of valor, and help them. Because many false prophets have gone out into the world. Okay, that's why they need help. All your mighty men. Gibor is used of mighty, brave, and strong men. The root is used to confirm strength of a covenant, to act proudly toward Yahuwah Elohim. Mighty men of valor. Efficiency and strength. Great courage in the face of danger. Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh are all firstborn in their own right. Mighty men of valor is needed to help them. The mark of the accusative is with them. They are to help them. All hands on deck for this fight everlasting. Yahuwshuwa needed them for his time, and so did Yochanan. Okay? And we are now coming back to reinforce the stronghold, because he says many false prophets have gone out into the world. These are people promoting something about everlasting life that will not stand in the land of promise on the other side of the Jordan. And yes, the battle is much the same. They use the word of Yahuwah, but they leave out Yahuwah. That is why we have to test spirits, because many are demonic, being established in a false truth. These are people who have their understanding of everlasting life rooted in something other than what Yahuwah is promoting. So maturity is needed for this battle. Valor is needed because many false prophets have gone out into the world. It's a lot of them. A person must have great courage, valor, in order to stand against the many false prophets that have gone out into the world. No greater story can be told. The only thing that they can do to thwart the plan of redemption is lie about it. And valor is needed, as I have mentioned, all the firstborn in their own right, the beginning of our strength. Valor. We know what is from the beginning. Mythology is a myth, and so is Christianity in all of her forms, Islam. And so is every religion known to man that does not recognize what Yahuwah has done in Israel for the saving of the soul. They are just some of the many false prophets that have gone out into the world. Many. From the time Moshe stood in the mountains of Nebo, he stood on Pisgah and saw demonic activity in all the land. Remember that too. Amen. Torah Shespitimitano. Thank you for watching with us here at Sarid. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe. Remember to make provisions for yourselves. The battle lines are clearly drawn, and we know the end from the beginning. So be strong and of good courage. Shabbat Shalom. Shahayalak Shabuatov. Have a good week.